How's your Act 2 things going? Let's go ahead and check into 20 questions you can be asking your characters right about this time. We gotta make sure we're doing all the correct things to show, don't tell, use our dialogue effectively, and of course, how emotional are you really getting? See you soon. Welcome on back, everybody. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer. How's writing glimmers? How's your rough draft challenge? How's everything geared around whatever write-a-thon you're doing this time of year, really focusing in? I do enjoy these kind of conversations that we've been having lately, so if you're really into the nerdy references and more, please do like, comment, sub, share, bring a friend. There is a journal in the description box. If you missed the first 2 videos in this series, you're going to want to go head back and enjoy those journals there too. So we're doing an Act 2 check-in. We've been kind of doing these journals in a 20 question speed dating style. We're going to keep with that theme. We're going to do Act 2, possibly Act 2 muddy middle, and then an Act 3 to get you all wrapped up, and maybe even one on marketing later. So we've got a couple more in this series. There are some bonus vlogs that are going to be going around the channel that you might want to enjoy early if you're seeing this in the members only area too. But if you're not a member, hey, join in. You get some of these earlier than everybody else, along with a bunch of other freebies that are locked backstage for no one else too. So let's get right into it. Showing, don't telling. Is it really something that needs to be black and white, one thing or the other? In my opinion, as an author, editor, coach, you need a blend of both. Some scenes do call for a little bit of telling. For example, I'm getting into book 4, Bound by Hope and Spirit for the Myrna Annals, and as I'm editing through, whenever I come across a part where I'm really telling something, I'm doing a couple of check-offs on my list. A, is it just more effective to do an info dump in 2 sentences as a tell versus is it going to take me 3 paragraphs as a show? I'm going to go with what benefits the reader more in that moment. Sometimes, number 2 off of that then becomes, there are moments when I need to reference something in book 4 that happened all the way back at the beginning or beyond book 1. There's some prequel books I haven't written yet that I know the details to because I've outlined them. And I know how things in the side quest novel, 6 Weeks But 3 Years, that goes on during book 2 are now affecting book 4's plot. Yes, they are Easter egg-like in nature. I want to keep them that way. So in my telling, I need to therefore also check a third thing of, is it just better to plop an Easter egg as a tell or a show? Now, when it comes to showing, the real difference between the two becomes A, are you having the narrator do it? We're going to talk about dialogue here in a little bit. But if the narrator's doing it, how objective versus subjective are they about it? Okay? One goes far more into standardized rubric kind of reactions, whereas the other one's a little bit more touchy-feely into the emotions. Take it back to Aristotle's triangle, right? Are you really trying to appeal to somebody's logic right now because plot hole is at risk if you don't? Do you need to appeal to their ethics or their emotions? Okay, that's logos, pathos, and ethos, right? So sometimes telling comes from the logic best, and it's just because you've got to be clear. If showing muddles it, yeah, you might want to debate about using a little telling type techniques. Now, when we get into that narrator head voice and we're getting emotional, we're getting into the ethics, I gotta ask you, point blank, how reliable is this narrator to your reader? And are they on a redemption arc otherwise? Frey went through that in book 3. He was not the greatest of characters morally wise in book 1 and 2. He went on a journey that started in book 2 and ended in book 3. So I gotta be aware of that with his secondary character nature now that he and Vovery have swapped out. Okay? So Vovery is also therefore going to have to, in his narrations regarding Frey, and show his likeness for whether or not his brother has grown is a good thing or a bad thing. Am I going to want to show that? Am I going to want to tell that? It's probably going to take a marry of the two. That's if I'm using narration. Now, dialogue needs to be strong. in my opinion, leave a lot of your helper verbs, a lot of your to be verbs, a lot of your longer convoluted phrasing for the narrator voice. Dialogue, we need it to be very realistic to conversation in real life, depending on who your characters are. If they're keeping it snappy, you've got to choose verbs that are strong, that are highly action-based, not helper-based, okay? Does that come out a little bit more in the editing? Probably. Would it be wise to maybe have a thesaurus on hand while you're writing? If you're in Microsoft Word, highlight the word and then Shift F7 will automatically use a thesaurus for you in-house. Thesaurus.com is often a tab I keep on my computer because sometimes I need to keep in mind that the way Vovry is going to say something is a bit more nerdy, he's not a bookworm, he's a book dragon, dang it, archaic. And that comes up in the way he talks. In books 6 through 10, he gets made fun of by the others for it, for sounding like he's a way, way crotchety old dragon, because he kind of is. By then, he's one of the eldest of the Alliance left. Actually, by the beginning of book 4, he's one of the eldest Draco left. So he sounds like a crotchety old man. My dialogue's going to have to very much match how he speaks. Now, for some of you, with a dialogue check here, we should in Act 2 be looking at continuity of voice for different characters. For example, do you have a character whose POV, they say certain things? I'm going to use Maria, for example. She grew up as a noblewoman turned nun in Castilian Spain. She occasionally throws Spanish terms randomly into the middle of her speaking. Frey, by comparison, would call people mon chéri, mon ami, all that jazz. But she might call them, she might, what is it she normally says? Dios mío normally comes out of her mouth. And then there's this one long phrase she has about equivalent to what she is saying. If you've ever seen Studio Ghibli's Howl's Moving Castle, she's basically doing the Spanish equivalent of Calcifer saying, "May all your bacon burn," or Sophia Petrillo from Golden Girl saying, or is it her sister Angela who says it, "May marinara never stick to your pasta." It's the Spanish equivalent. A teeny tiny witchy little curse that is just an annoyance, but really doesn't give anybody bad karma. So, what are these little catchphrasey, stereotypical things? Are your characters still saying them? Frey does not call everybody mon chéri, mon amour, or mon ami and everything by the end of book 3. The mon frère, my brother. Even Harumi gets called my brother because, in his opinion, it's why she has a son. She grew the biggest pair of balls. Okay, just want to say it. Don't demonetize me. It's true. It's why she has a kid first. That's a guy. Because her body can produce that kind of caliber, and therefore, she's a brother. And these little teeny tiny things and how they talk about each other even. Has your character's opinion of another character changed? And do you need to make that change here in Act 2 with the dialogue? Are you being mean enough, nice enough? Insert explicative of choice that fits enough at this point. Therefore, check into the emotional depth. This is where I tell a lot of people in my one-on-one coaching meetings for brainstorming sessions or for editing and revising sessions, can you add a little more cray-cray to your Wheaties for your characters? What are your characters putting in their Wheaties? Harkening back to an old joke of, what are you eating? You are what you eat. Are your characters verifiably, emotionally invested enough? Or do you need to throw in not just the kitchen sink and all the wrenches and a mech and a bottle of potion, duct tape, glue, a Clydesdale, insert anime and video game reference here. It's like, how far are you willing to push your characters and your readers into a little thing called suspension of disbelief at this point. That is what you're checking. Yes, us willingly participating in these fictional worlds has a technical term. It's called suspension of disbelief. How willing are you to throw the tornado, not in the middle of Kansas and the Land of Oz, but rather make it more like Wonderland in a blender? How farther are you turning up the dial? Now's really the decisions where you need to start figuring out where those extreme outliers are, because Act 3 is coming and you've got to wrap them up into a bow. Journal below to help you get there, because Act 3, maybe that muddy middle, probably needs some ironing out. See you in the next one.